Hey people, Positive Paul. It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, of course. And we will stroll down memory lane real quick. Who remembers Trump planning mass arrest, military tribunals? Has the deep state met its match? Wow. What a very ironic twist to all this. 4 indictments later. What do you think Trump has planned now? Well, who knows? But it's interesting that these social media frauds have been making money hand over fist, particularly on YouTube, one of the most corrupt social media platforms other than Facebook that certainly has lived up to its mission statement concerning censorship and stymieing the truth, specifically the victims of this so-called deep state shadow government, otherwise known as this backwards ass Babylonian satanic usury system of servitude ran by these American Nazi Edomite Satanists that can't keep their hands off children and live and die by the blood of these children, specifically Jacob. But see, when you put it in those terms, you get the crazy label slapped on you. But you know what the reality is, people? Social media is such a if you made a pie chart, and let's stick with the United States, all right? If we did a Zogby poll, a Reuters poll, Associated Press, how about a Fox News poll? And we want to know how many adults in the United States are using social media. And then you can take that one step further. Over the course of the past, let's say 8 years, 2015, leading up to the 2016 election, when all this conspiratorial garbage really, really ramped up, how many people would know anything about this? The 66,000 indictments rounding up the pedophiles. And you know what's really crazy is just to show you that these Satanists don't even care about their own people. They use people, exploit them for their own purposes, and when they're done with them, oh well. The body count from these social media frauds, it exponentially every day continues to go up. And like I say, when one social media fraud goes down, another one pops up. Pops goes the weasel. So we've been swimming knee deep, some of us, in this conspiratorial swamp. Oh, draining the swamp. So my big thing has been, of course, these implants in me, which nobody has a fucking clue about. None of these so-called victims that claim to be targeted, or the amount of testimony concerning satanic ritual abuse survivors, it's an a pittance. If you can almost add up all these on one hand, if not two, will be nice. So part of these conspiracies we understand is some of us that are involved, not by choice, because we're connected to these families that operate within the military industrial satanic complex. And these families, unfortunately, they're in a situation where whether they handed over their children to these Satanists without knowing what was going on, or they're fully immersed in the destruction of these children, specifically the ones connected to Israel, Jacob, not the Jews, people. And so this is where I find myself. And as I've watched this whole thing go down since 2015, and then by 2016, I was up and running on social media, not really knowing what the hell I was getting into, not knowing how corrupt YouTube is that they would surround me with a bunch of phonies. You have the dopey comment perps, the nameless, faceless, useless, dopey comment perp, to aggravate the individual that dares, testifies, witnesses against these Satanists. Which, again, if you did the poll and asked people about all this, look, nobody's on social media. If you look at YouTube on the App Store, it says there's 32 million subscribers right now. So we can just, for argument's sake, cut that in half, because the one half is under 18. They're children with not much to go on. They're clueless. And so the other half, most of them are there for entertainment. So if you try to nail down what the actual percentage of people on social media that are concerned about this, whether they're a do-gooder or they're an actual victim fighting for their life, fighting for their credibility, because we know one of the main tools in these lazy lying lizards' toolboxes are lies and slander, defamation of character. They'll do whatever it takes to mitigate the testimony of one of their victims. So, look, obviously this was a big failure. These goofball white hats, no one, not one damn one of them can stand up and say, yeah, that's right, I'm a white hat, and this is what we're doing, right? There's still these asshole social media frauds that are purporting that there's this mysterious group that somehow, after all that's been said and done, is still in operation, trying to do exactly what Trump never did. Never planned on doing. It was all hot air. He's all part of it. We know this. And so the truth movement has been called out by many people. And look, from the get-go, I never said I was a truther. I want the truth. I would love to have the truth and put these low-life, lazy, lying lizard scum out of business, but it ain't gonna happen. So my way out of this, and everybody knows that has been following me, is if it wasn't for my Savior, the only one who has my back, Jesus. That's right. He's the one that has kept me going. He's the one that, when this all goes down, the people that have been working on a daily basis to ensure that I suffer, I continue to walk around in poverty, except for lately, where one individual has found it in his heart to let go some of his money and help me out. Now, others have helped me out, all right? And I get this. Not everybody is walking around with hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars that they can just, whip out, a check to help somebody. I get this. Some of you are in the same position, but I don't see you doing anything about it. So this will be my lead up. It's an all over the map video. I'm in one of those moods today. And what I want to get back into is this Montauk project. Now, August 12th came and went. These goofballs that went out to Montauk Point back on August 12th weekend, all right, they've came back. And if you watch the results of this, you watch the video concerning these dopey, slippery, slimy, sleazy super soldiers, which a lot of them claim to be Montauk boys. Nothing new, nothing new. And we're gonna discover that once I get into this here in a second, that the people that have been assigned to control the narrative, boy, man, they are just lost in outer space. You would think the baby Draco hybrid James Rink, who was groomed to take over the Montauk narrative, would get his story straight, and after 12 years of him being on YouTube, he could do a video where this guy is just like this, blonde valley girl that you have to watch it, folks. And you tell me that after everything that we've all been through, that you could at least do a video that displays some degree of intelligence and look into the camera, not be staring off into outer space and having all these glitches. So yeah, we know this was all a bunch of garbage. So let's look at this situation, folks. Now, what happened is they were on my case throughout the month of August. I'm going to show you something. I tried to do this video back on August 1st. And where is it? Let me see something. Bear with me, people. We'll get this going here. Let's go to my videos. Okay. I tried to do this video right here, and I was overwhelmed right here.
Hey people, Positive Paul. Coming at you around maybe 8 p.m. No sunset today on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023.
Okay. So, you've seen these videos, all right? This is one clue that something happened to me as a child, and more importantly later as a young teenager, concerning satanic rituals, concerning MK Ultra, and very few people on planet Earth can demonstrate these orbs that are constantly swimming around me, where I'm in the photo, I'm in the video, you see who it is. So that in itself, amongst many other pieces of evidence I have to prove my case, that these Satanists that had their hands on me and these other boys, they are on a very short leash. Their time is almost up, and they've known this for thousands of years. So they've been working feverishly, year after year, finding a way to get out of their demise. So you see that. Now what I want to do is I set the bait for the baby Draco hybrid James Rink, and he took it. Now, he has a new cast of cadres of supposed Montauk boys that came out of the woodwork. And we have to put things in chronological order. Now, within this conspiratorial swamp, all right, you have what is known as the satanic sphere of influence. And this is how you get sucked in to their little satanic shenanigans. Now, we have to start somewhere and develop some type of timeline. Now, there has been enough bloodshed, misery, and suffering prior to World War II. We can go over all that ad nauseum, but for the sake of time, we need to keep things in a modern perspective, post-World War II, where I see a lot of these conspiracies all of a sudden take flight, and they're coming at you fast and furious, is the year 1947. And the reality is, some of these events aren't conspiracies. They are actually proven events that, I tell you, if someone made them up, and let's just start with the big whammy, Roswell. All right, July of 1947, they throw that at us, and that kicks it off. You also have the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this all of a sudden, if it wasn't already, it lends legitimacy to Scripture. And then, of course, we understand that the creation of Israel was discussed, planned, took place in November of 47, and on May 14th, 1948, the State of Israel was created. Now, question is this according to prophecy? Well, there's a group out there that don't want you to think the fig tree generation was not born on May 14th, 1948. Now, one of the other more mysterious events that took place in 47 was Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd. Now, as the conspiracy goes, look, the Nazis never did lose World War II. What they did is they took their, I guess, some of the highest ranking individuals within this organization, excuse me, they hightailed it down to Antarctica, South America, with their technology, with gold. They were able to quickly buy off the South Americans to set up shop down there and then begin to establish their Fourth Reich in Antarctica. Now, we all know that there is the alien connection concerning the Fourth Reich. They're in a new Schwabenland, whatever they call it. So Admiral Byrd went down there with a specific mission in mind, but he never completed it. Within 2 months, he had to turn around. And the story goes, is an opposing force came out to meet the American naval group and sent them packing using very sophisticated technology unknown to anybody at that time. So this is where the story gets sticky, because in 1947 also, we see the creation of Brookhaven National Laboratory out on Long Island. And What is so crazy is I've done this for years now, and these social media frauds that follow me and use my information. First, it was these dopey targeted individuals, which, look, I understand people are being harassed, they are being illegally, non consensually experimented on, but it has something to do with satanic ritual abuse. It has something to do with these Satanists, not some mysterious government targeting program. Yes, they've got something going on, but not the way that it was explained by these dopes that are all long gone, folks. Long gone. But you see the creation of Brookhaven Labs, and see mysteriously, in the recent video from the baby Draco hybrid super soldier James Rink, his super soldier Montauk boy pals were talking about Brookhaven when they never once ever brought up the subject. See, I don't need credit for this. I know what goes on. You know, I will continue to do this with little fanfare, virtually no support, but from a few people. I know some good people are following me. And if you feel you have felt that you have been victim or being harassed by a rogue government that bases all their investigations off the fact of the biggest scam known to mankind as 9/11 and the Patriot Act gets foisted on us, these fusion centers, terrorist here, terrorist there. But really, it's about trying to mitigate the testimony of the satanic ritual abuse survivor, mitigate their witness concerning what their activities really are. Now, Brookhaven National Labs is interesting. And what I wanted to bring up, I'm not going to get into the whole thing with them, but I'm going to guide you to the Long Island Historical Journal. This is spring of 1991. And you see the history of Brookhaven, part 1. Now, this is a 6-part series they did. And I'm going to show you something here, and it's part 2. Now, let's just real quick, I want to read this, and so that way you get an idea of how this developed. Now, after joining the lab on August 1st, 1947 to do high-energy physics research, Hayworth found his work frustrated by administrative problems. Oh, really? Now, there's a lot of people involved. Look, if it takes a village to raise a child, in order to do these these scientific experiments that cost a lot of money, resources, time, it's an enormous amount of individuals involved. So you can certainly, with this 6-part series, they go over who was involved, and that will give you an idea. But more importantly, I want to go to page 19. It's volume 2. And we're going to just real quick read this. Like the Cosmotron, the AGS, that's an acronym, Alternating Gradient System, I believe. Excuse my pronunciation. It's morning, folks. I'm tongue-tied. Was based on a new principle in accelerator physics. This one called strong focusing. As with many breakthrough ideas, the principle of strong focusing was discovered in a backhanded way. Now, this also occurred within the Philadelphia experiment, whether or not they stumbled onto time travel, and later found to have been anticipated by someone whose work had been dismissed. Okay, now here, this is what I want everybody to understand. In early summer of 52, even before the Cosmotron was fully operational, Brookhaven's accelerator builders, they go through the list of people involved, okay? They met that summer, they had a visit by a delegation of accelerator scientists from the new laboratory in Europe known as CERN. CERN was then in its infancy. So the point to this is we know CERN is at the heart of the matter with what's going on right now. And they're knee deep in with these Satanists. And to the point where some of their activities are just out in the open. They don't care. The whole thing with the Gothard Tunnel, the mock satanic ritual at CERN by the employees in front of the Shiva statue. These type of events tell you that they have a confidence. They are so confident in what they're doing that they cannot be stopped. Well, think again, folks. All right, so I just wanted to bring that one point, that there is no CERN without Brookhaven. And you know, whether we're gonna get the truth out of what CERN is really up to, and what are they capable of, folks? And this goes to the heart of mind control. Okay, I guess the noise is going to ramp up here. I apologize. But let's get into this whole Montauk thing real quick. Hold on, please. And I wanted to bring this up too, because I spoke about this. My family's from Long Island. My grandfather was a naval chaplain, World War II. He had done many sermons out on Brookhaven. Here in 1935, after he had recently graduated from Princeton, he announces a series of 6 sermons that he will preach over Brookhaven. And it's why we believe in Christianity. Now, the people that are bashing Christians and you claim to be filled with the Holy Spirit, you got something figured out. Do not let these individuals scare you away. Christianity is about a personal relationship with Christ, our Savior, the one that freed us from sin. Now, there's a lot of confusion about that. I never point at anybody to go to church or get roped into some of these other religions. It's a personal relationship. And once you understand the Word of God, because they go hand in hand, you will see your life transform for the better. But what happens in doing this, you all of a sudden, you start to see behind the veil. So, and look, people think what they think, and it doesn't make them bad people either. This is why I've learned in the social media university, YouTube University has taught me that when I don't like something someone says, it's all right. Because what may happen within a couple minutes, they are going to have something that could be worthwhile to the individual trying to learn something. So we have these knee-jerk reactions, and I am guilty too. I hear things on social media and I go nuts. And I've displayed this in my videos because, look, they took everything away from me. I got nothing left, so there's nothing to lose. They can't, you know? So I can tell you the truth and tell you like it is. These other people are trying to hang on to something, whether it's their bank account, their home, their reputation, or they think they know something, but really they're just weaselly cowards that until this goes down, then maybe they might stick, pull their head out of the sand. But look, you don't want to. Let's put it this way: if you're in a foxhole and rounds are coming overhead, you want to be with some little weaselly coward that's gonna turn tail, or gonna stand there like a man and face the enemy head on and deal with this. This is what my grandfather did, and he lost his life through poisoning by these asshole Satanists that he knew what they were up to. And this was on August 8th, 1961, at age 53. So here you have the baby Draco hybrid, James Rink, after he came back from his big Montauk trip. And he has his four, these guys, he dredges these two up. I don't know. But what I did, I had to painfully sit here and listen to them and know what I already knew. That just listen to the video. And if you come away with these guys being legitimate, then you got to screw loose. So here they are. They're trying to tell you, oh, we went out there, the energy, this and that. But they never solved one thing. They didn't come up with anything new. And to make matters worse, James still, he does not know how to start his videos. He is just, I don't understand this. You think this guy would be an expert at this by now. And what happens is, as I've stated, James is a very curious fellow. Whether or not he is an Edomite or he is one of these dopey hybrids, he'll tell you, oh yeah, he got age regressed. Oh, he's he tells you all this stuff. But the reality is, folks, what is up? How can this guy, he claims he was part of Montauk with Preston, but he says he was born in 1979. The years that are most relevant to Montauk are 1980 through August 12th, 1983. It's not because I say so, it's because this is the way the conspiracy was formed. And again, you can't have Montauk without the Philadelphia experiment and vice versa. So here James is. He once again, he uses my information because, look, this is what I'm going to tell you again and again. They want you to believe that they can mind control all these young boys back then, hundreds of thousands, and then it worked its way up to millions. All right? And he supposedly is one of them. But you have to do this in chronological order. All right? He wants to say, oh, well, yeah, they started it back up, this and that. But he's got no proof. And one could say, well, Paul, where's your proof? See, I have a lot of proof, but I don't put it on social media for you dumb fucks that use my information. I wised up years ago. So James knows that he is a flaming Draco hybrid. And what do we look for? The hands, the mouth, the eyeballs. And here he is, once again, with the Draco Dits on July 6, 2023, where I announced my Montauk Madness videos that were forthcoming on 4th of July. So every time I've done this historically for 8 years now, I've watched this. As soon as I open my mouth about this, they all spring into action. Now, remember, the Draco Dits, Kerry Cassidy, has been knee-deep in this conspiratorial swamp, going all the way back to maybe 2005 with Project Camelot. And she somehow back then was able to dredge up some of these supposed super soldiers. But more importantly, it's these super soldiers that are part of this secret space program. That's so secret, right? They have these tall tales of fighting these galactic wars, and they're going up against these reptilians. I mean, if you've listened to what I've listened to for the past 8 years, and you can go back, watch my videos, they're buried deep now. And when I do these videos, the backlash with the stalking and harassment down here in Mexico, I got these Satanists camped out down here that control these Mexicans, and it's just amazing. And last night was another case in point. I took off to go back to see my son. It was late, it was dark. They had to trot out the, any perp that would, I guess, answer the call, which they're all waiting around because they only do it for money. They don't do it because they care about Mexico or they care about whether or not I'm this crazy criminal or a crazy guy that's going to do something. They do it because they've been bought off. And again, everybody knows that if you had stalked or harassed the cartel, you're going to end up 6 feet under. So the same way with these assholes, these social media frauds pretending to be something they're not, they drop like flies. Now, let's slow down. I don't know what it will take. Every time I do these videos, I tell myself, just do a normal video. Don't cuss, don't get mad, don't get worked up. But you people know that it can never happen that way with me. All right, let's keep moving along. So look, we know that it's not only these super soldiers. Look, the social media fraud, they come in all sizes, shapes, and forms. And we'll never get to the bottom of this, folks, because see, the way it works is they're going to continue this, dragging us through the mud, meaning Jacob, the real victims of these Satanists. And see, what happened is because we know the blood. This is why all starting, back Genesis 9, verse 4, stay away from the blood, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, don't touch the blood. We know that these Satanists cannot live without the blood of these children, meaning Jacob. There's something to that. So what happened is and this is hard to believe, you people don't want to believe this, I know, by the end of the 90s, the bloodletting of Jacob was finished. So what Satan did is because he cannot extract that blood anymore from Jacob, he had to enter into his final phase of what we now know to be false flags. And it kicked off with the mother of all sacrifices, 9/11. Now here we are 6 days away from the 22nd anniversary, and we must not forget innocent people died. But the most egregious thing is year after year that these Satanists get to watch these ceremonies, these poor families that lost their loved ones. And you could imagine what they think when they watch this, that they did their job. Now, look, that was 22 years ago, and there's a lot that's happened since then, all right? We can never cover all the bases and get to the heart of the matter in one video. It's impossible. Even if you had the Hollywood production team that you see these people, the way they make their videos, and that's what most people on social media will only watch. And hey, if I had resources and money, I could maybe, be a little more technological savvy with my presentation, but the emotion's still going to be there, so it doesn't matter. But again, Alex Collier, all right? He's been knee deep in this since the beginning of the 90s. He talks to these Andromedans, all of them, right? Now, this type of shape-shifting we don't see anymore. Because remember what I told you, that after 2020, right, 2020 rather, they seem to recalibrate, do something to mitigate this electromagnetic distortion amongst these Nephilim type, these Edomite type with the corrupted DNA. And you just don't see it. Now, this is from a month ago, and they must want me to see this, because I even actually went back, and no one on his channel questioned why this occurs, but you don't see it. Now, remember, prior to that, it was off the charts, and I think I was one of them. There was other channels, other individuals trying to expose this, and I think we did a good job causing them to recalibrate the technology to make sure that this does not occur. But you cannot have the freakazoid looking like that and everything else in the video holds form. The books, the bookshelf, everything except the individual. Now, I want to tell you something that happened to me the other day, and this proves, without a shadow of a doubt, how clueless the American population is, meaning the people that take this seriously, if there's 340 million people, cut that in half for argument's sake. One half are 18 and under. The other half should be thoughtful, caring, considerate adults, intelligent, and they know nothing about this. If you called 150 million, let's just say, let's say 100,000 people look into this, are concerned about it. The rest, if you even approach the subject, shape-shifting, Nephilim, these reptilians, they're going to look at you like, what the hell are you talking about? Now, here's the proof. Let me show you. Where is it? Hold on. Okay. One of my favorite channels, and I'm going to tell you who he is. It's Brian from Born Again Barbarian. I believe this individual is a God-fearing individual with the Holy Spirit, and he's doing the best he can to share the Word of God. I do think he's got the Revelation 12 interpretation wrong, but that's okay. He speaks with authority. So he points out how Robert Breaker gets a little, he gets off course once in a while, and I've done videos on him showing him shape-shifting. Matter of fact, they're still up. And I put this in a comment, and I was one of the first comments on this video, and they all come out of the woodwork. I couldn't get them all, but, oh, you don't sound crazy at all. Okay, I think you need to lay off the juice there a little bit. Must be smoking some good stuff. I wish I was smoking some good stuff. But do you see that how these people think that when I make a comment like that, and if they had actually went to my channel and looked at some of my videos, they would, wow, at least scratch their head that maybe there's something to this. But nope, they live in their own little worlds, their own little bubbles. They're all bubble boys, I guess. So anyway, there's some proof. And let's continue. Now, I also want to remind everybody that Mr. Reagan, all right, he was president during all this Montauk madness. So just remember, all right, it was on his watch. Now, it takes an enormous amount of time to do this research, to read the blogs, to try to investigate into some of the books that have been written, and to watch these videos. Now, because I've had nothing to do, I've been blacklisted, and just, I guess I'm a lost soul, folks, and I've had a lot of time on my hands. So starting back in the end of 2015, I had to painfully go over all this. And, you name it, I've seen them all. I've listened to these people. I know what's been said. I know what the contradictions are. And here, well, let's start with this. There was no such thing as the Montauk Project before November 25th, 1989. Now, before that, Al Bielek claims that he had met Preston Nichols and Duncan, not realizing it was his brother, Duncan Cameron, at a psychotronics conference in Dayton, Ohio. He wasn't sure of the date because first he said 1985 and then 1986. Now, the way Al recovered his memories was through the movie The Philadelphia Experiment, which came out in 1988. So when you try to verify on who may have been involved, which, let's state this, Al, Preston, Duncan, and Stuart Swerdlow were all involved in something that adversely affected young boys concerning mind control and satanic ritual abuse. Now, this is their very first video where Preston, Al, and Duncan sit down on November 25th, 1989, and they give their first public testimony. Now, 2 weeks prior to this date, on November 11th, 1989, I was honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps out at Camp Pendleton. Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, this would initiate Al, who really, he took the torch, he took the baton. Preston, definitely, he was right there. Duncan, he never really said much. But Swerdlow, he gets involved in a roundabout way, and we'll get to Swerdlow last. Excuse me. So, from the very get-go, the mere mention of the Montauk boys is far and few. And the one thing throughout this process is they never can identify one Montauk boy when supposedly there were hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Not one damn one of them could remember any of them. But they sure do remember everything else. So what happened was, after this testimony of the three, Al hits the MUFON circuit, and one of the first places he shows up at is the Dallas Metroplex on January 13th, 1990. Now, his big thing initially was the Philadelphia experiment. And how Al mesmerizes the audience is he is a technical wizard. Al Bielek was everything he said and more. He's part of the Old Boy Network, and we'll get into that, don't you worry. So this is where we see the Montauk myth begin to take flight. 2 weeks after I'm discharged from the military and will be released out into the cold, cruel world, not knowing I've got these Satanists following my every steps. It would be almost 20 years later until I actually start to understand what had been taking place and what to this very day still is taking place. So let's look at this. So they do that, and then what happens is, in between, you have Preston doing talks. Some of them find their way on social media, but not the ones from the 90s, but you can find Al's talks. And they're numerous, but for the next, I'd say at least 10 years, these four individuals control the Montauk narrative. It would be almost up until, I guess, when Carrie Cassidy gets involved, that really this conspiracy is only limited to the MUFON circuit and these scheduled public events that occur somewhere in any hotel, any city. But they show up in Europe and they show up in Australia too, meaning, well, Al, more importantly. But here you see the three of them on January 2nd, 1993, go out to Montauk again. They claim they had been out there prior to the 89 testimony. But here they're with a renowned psychic who is known as Helga Morrow, I believe. And they take her with them, and they do this tour out on Montauk. And the video footage that they come back with is grainy. It's VHS, of course, but it's very telling. Now, in my previous videos, we go over the fact that a lot of time passes before more people get involved in Montauk. I don't come into this picture until 2016, folks. But before that, like I said, the people that speak about it are far and few. It is a very controlled, tightly controlled subject. And the venues where it's disseminated, the information is tightly controlled. But what you see is there's a couple other individuals that I deem credible. And we're going to, real quick, go over one of them. Now, it's an individual by the name of John Quinn. He grew up out on Long Island. He believes he may have been part of Montauk. And his research and the information he provided in a blog that still exists on the internet is so extensive that you cannot dismiss it. Now, he was out there in 1995 with his wife, and they were exploring Camp Hero, investigating the Montauk issue because he knew about Preston's book with Peter Moonbeam. And I wish I could get into more of his blog, but you guys got to do this on your own because here we are coming up on an hour, and I don't know if I'm doing okay here. April 1996, I decide to rustle through the building's garbage dumpster to see what might turn up. No typical household refuse. The dumpster was mostly filled with cardboard boxes, other shipping and packing materials. Of particular interest, a good-sized shipping carton addressed to Seal Roth, who was the name of the Air Force colonel who met with Preston Nichols in the penthouse during August 1995, and the box came from an underwater construction corporation based in San Diego. So he has a lot of other things, and the one thing he says is after his findings and he went back to California in 1995, things got a little weird for him. He didn't go into the stalking or harassment, but he was receiving weird phone calls and other events were occurring. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, let's look at my friends Montauk Strange. Now, these gentlemen, the one Brian individual, who I have given my blessings because in 1995, as youngsters, they were out there exploring Montauk. And they videotaped a lot of their, well, let's just say, their investigation. How's that sound? They have really compelling footage that they have put up on their YouTube channel, Montauk is Strange, which is only from 2 years ago. That's when they started it. But what they unwittingly did was helped me establish how Al has many contradictions. And here you're looking at a screen capture of them being chased by the Montauk security force. And this is where I can relate to them, and I could see myself doing it. They led these dopey security guards on a goose chase, and they hid from them. But they were eventually, they got them. But the videotapes survived. So I want to give them my blessing again and not point my ire at them, but they got themselves involved with Peter Moon, and they said that they had been at one of the talks as young kids where Al and Preston were talking about Montauk, and they let me know that. So I can only believe what they tell me, folks. I want to believe in all of you. Don't you understand that? So there you go. You got John Quinn, and then you have Brian from Montauk Strange. And this is, the one thing where they go wrong, and I'm going to wrap it up here so this just becomes an hour video, and then we'll try to pick back up again, is concerning the infamous August 12th, 83 date where the dope Duncan creates Junior. Let's look at that real quick. Okay. So I've already destroyed this years ago, and I'm going to keep doing this until the day I die, so you people understand that these social media frauds pretending to be me and these dead children, because it's not about me, but for one, the so-called Montauk Project, as I've stated over and over again, was a continuation of MKUltra. The remaining survivors were to be put on ice and used at the proper time when they reached age. Now we know Al always stated, according to Wilhelm Reich, and then this is where you can just get lost and being bombarded with all this information and making it fit, placing it in chronological order, and letting the viewer who knows nothing about this to view the information and get them to scratch their head. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that. I've tried, and I know I've failed, but either way, the information that I've put that contradict all their testimonies is bar none, cannot be refuted. And that's why nobody has to date to try to shut me up. All they do is censor me. Al used this picture from the get-go saying that that is Junior. All right? What happened was, remember, Edward Cameron and his brother Duncan jump off the Eldritch. They end up at Montauk and greet an elderly John von Neumann who says, look, we need to get you back to the Eldritch. All right? There is an issue that's been created, and if we do not destroy the equipment, we do not disable the electromagnetic field that is growing larger minute by minute, hour by hour, we can upset the cosmic consequence. It will be so devastating that there'll be nothing left of any of us. So what happened is you have that going on. They're sending Edward and Duncan back to smash the equipment in 1943, but at the same time, simultaneously, the dope Duncan is in the Montauk chair creating Junior, and they want to say that that is Junior. They've used this picture, every last one of them, from the early 90s up until this day. Now here's how this works, people. You see that this is a photo of the bunkers out there on Montauk. Now what I did was, and look, here's Montauk Strange. This is where they're going wrong. They want to continue this notion that somehow Junior came out of the little pea brain in the Sage radar tower and went around destroying Montauk. All right? Now here is where the picture came from, people. It came from the East Hampton Historical Society. And this is the exact picture of where these dopes got that from. Now, you're looking at the two main bunkers, the gun emplacements out there on Montauk Point. There is Junior. Junior is a evergreen conifer. All right? He's not some monster that Duncan conjured up. These shysters, these, I don't know if you can call them social media frauds, because social media wasn't really around back then. But do you see? This is one of many, folks. So this photo was taken in 1984 when they were disabling the Montauk Air Force Base. And East Hampton Historical Society sent their people out to document it. I've shown you pictures already. I've done these videos. They show right there by the Sage radar. Everything was taken out of the building. It was just sitting there on the ground, waiting to be picked up or whatever the case may be. But this is where that picture came from. Now look, this Eye of Horus thing, make it clear, I didn't put that there. You go to the East Hampton Historical Society, go into their photo galleries, and all those photos they took from June of '84 are still there. And the travesty is that people don't do their research. They can be so bamboozled, it's just amazing. So there you go, folks. But please, Montauk Strange, do not continue this fraud, all right? There's no such thing as junior. There are such things as these American Nazi Edomite Satanists who may or may not be in bed with these so-called aliens who are really fallen angels, demons that are conjured up by these backwards ass Babylonian witch warlocks that are all over the globe now. They're not just in Europe. That's where it emanates from. Europe, England, and specifically after World War II, they set up shop in the United States. And now they've been known as the Military Industrial Satanic Complex. And their goal was always to round up the rest of Jacob, implement their New World Order. And there's been some bumps along the road, but the reality is there were no whistleblowers. They might have been maybe way back then when real men and women stood up. But if you call yourself a whistleblower now, and you're walking around with a bank account, shooting your mouth off in a cushy little home, still have a job, you don't have these dumb fuck Satanists stalking and harassing you, running around buying off the indigenous people wherever the victim may end up at, well, you don't got a clue then. So there you go, folks. Positive Paul at it again.